Hey guys, welcome back to the CulePodcast. Welcome back to another video. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the whole mess that is currently unfolding in Barcelona. And could Xavi potentially be sacked? And we're going to be talking about the whole situation. But guys, before I get started on the video, make sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms. Everything is posted down below in the description. Go over there and check me out. That way you guys can stay up to date with everything that I do on the channel. But guys, let's get straight into it, and let's talk about this whole situation that is currently unfolding at Barcelona. Why is Xavi currently currently about to be sacked by Joan Laporta? If you guys don't know, a couple months ago, after that game against Villarreal, Xavi, he announced his decision to leave the club on June the 30th. He wasn't going to fulfill his contract until 2025, and at the end of the season, he was going to leave. After Xavi announced that decision to leave, Laporta and Barcelona, they spent the next 3 months or so begging Xavi to stay. They did everything in their power, to convince Xavi to stay, to reconsider his decision. And that decision was changed when Laporta, Deco, and Xavi, they all met in Laporta's home with also the board of directors, and they all got together. They planned the next season out. They talked about the season, how it went, and in that meeting, there was a lot of optimism. Xavi, he basically told Laporta, hey, next season is going to be going really well. It's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of optimism. The new signings that are going to be coming in are going to help the club. We're going to compete a lot better next year. And Laporta, he liked those words. He agreed with him, and the decision for Xavi to stay was announced. And they had this huge celebration 3 weeks ago. And after some poor results, and specifically after that Girona game, in which Barcelona they lost 4-2, Laporta was very very angry. And just recently, Laporta he became so angry with Xavi due to some words that Xavi has said in the press conference right before the Almeria game. But it's not only those reasons. It's not only because of the words that Xavi said in that press conference before the Almeria game, but it's also because of some other reasons, which I am going to be talking about. But let's first look at the words that Xavi has said, in regards, in that press conference right before, that game in which he basically, basically spoke the truth. This is what Xavi says. We are going to try to compete with Madrid. The situation is difficult on an economic level that has nothing to do with 25 years ago. Now we are not in the same conditions with clubs with better fair play. The fans should know he does not mean that we do not try to achieve the objectives. It is the situation that we are in continuous progression. We are experiencing we are experiencing the economic situation that the club has to compete. We have to play better football, but above all, compete. Some details have remained with us. Now, in those quotes, Xavi doesn't say anything, particularly bad or anything that shines a bad light on Barcelona. He just says the truth. Barcelona, they are currently in a weak financial position. We don't have the FFP, we don't have the infinite money that other clubs do to go out and splash money on players such as Mbappe, Haaland, Jude Bellingham, or any other player that you want to throw out there. Barcelona, they're just not in that position. And those words apparently have angered Joan Laporta, and they've angered him enough to not even travel with the team in the game against Almeria. Joan Laporta, he wasn't there in the stands overlooking the match, and this is very rare because Joan Laporta, he's there on every single match, and so tensions right now are very high between Laporta and Xavi, and it appears that Laporta is going to be sacking Xavi. Now this is absolutely crazy, but it's not just because of those words that Xavi said in the game, in the press conference before Almeria, but it's also because of the way Xavi has managed the whole Vitor Roque situation. In November and December of last year, Xavi, he asked for Vitor Roque to come in early. Laporta and the whole board, they made a huge financial effort to try and bring in Vitor Roque early. And this is because Lewandowski, at that time, he was really struggling. He was going through a bad run of form. He wasn't playing particularly great. And Barcelona, they needed a backup striker to give Lewandowski some competition. Things weren't. Barcelona, they were really struggling for goals at that time. And when Vitor Roque, he does come in, he performs well. He has a couple good games, and he scores 2 goals. And then after that, he's just frozen out. And we haven't seen him much of him in the time that he has been here. He's been here for very little time. No, for very little time. We've seen absolutely none of him, and that's just can't be the case for a player who we played 31 million euros fixed with 30 million of add-on fees included. We paid huge money for him. He's supposedly our bet for the future, and we've seen just basically 0 minutes of him, and that just cannot be the case. So those two reasons, plus the way Xavi has managed the whole Vitor Roque situation, but also the results in the season. Laporta, he's basically done a 180, and he's no longer happy with the work that Xavi is doing. Now, I'm mind blown because that cannot be the case. How can a serious institution be looking at this situation and just be like, oh, you know what, things are going fantastically well? A serious institution plans things out and they make decisions. How can one press conference, which Xavi, he basically tells the truth, change the whole narrative? And Laporta for one day goes, "Hey, Xavi's staying. I want you to stay." To now saying, "Hey, Xavi, I want you to leave." That's just absolutely absurd. But if Xavi, if he were to get sacked, which would cost Barcelona money, which would make the situation even worse. Xavi's current release clause is 18 million euros, and so if Barcelona do decide to sack him, we would have to pay those 18 million euros. Before, when Xavi announced his decision to leave, he was doing that willingly. Barcelona, they weren't forcing him out, but now if Barcelona they do force him out, we do have to pay. So Barcelona, they're just digging themselves into a deeper hole, which is absolutely absurd. But the managers who are currently leading the race to become the manager is Sergio Conceição, it's Hansi Flick, and it's Rafa Marquez. But out of those three, currently the number one placed, forefront candidate to replace Xavi is Rafa Marquez. But looking at the whole situation, there's been reports saying that Rafa Marquez, he does not want to continue at Barcelona Athletic as he wants to pursue bigger challenges. So just imagine this situation: Barcelona, they sack Xavi. They say, "Hey, Xavi, we don't want you to stay." Everything like that. Rafa, no. Imagine this, even worse. They have Xavi stay. Rafa Marquez leaves since he doesn't no longer wants to be the Barcelona athletic coach, and then they decide to sack Xavi. Then in that situation, we no longer have Xavi, and we don't have Rafa Marquez, and Barcelona they're left with very limited options. But this whole situation has gotten so tense to the point where even Laporta and Xavi, at this point in time, they have zero communication. A report by Sport is saying that there is absolutely zero communication between Laporta and Xavi to the point where it's so tense where not even WhatsApps or phone calls are being met. And Laporta, he's basically told Xavi, "Hey, at the end of the season, we're gonna have a meeting to discuss this whole situation." And that's just unbelievable because we've had Laporta begging Xavi to stay, and now he's asking Xavi to leave. It's absolutely mind-boggling that this club is managing things like this, and it's not surprising. It's not surprising. And looking at the whole how the situation is developing, serious questions are going to have to be asked about Laporta because Xavi, he's been Laporta's scapegoat throughout his entire tenure. We do know that some of the decisions Laporta has made has been very emotional. He's a very emotional kind of man, and those decisions, they haven't been always great for Barcelona. Barcelona, they haven't been particularly great off the field. You have constant professionals and experienced people who worked for the club for years leaving. Your Matteo Alemany, for example, all of them leaving, and you're putting in people who have very little experience. You have a manager who's not experienced at the top level. You have Deco, who's not experienced as a sport director, and Barcelona, they're just struggling in every single area, both financially, both sporting, and both as well as institutionally. But guys, let me know about this whole situation that is unraveling at Barcelona. What do you guys make of the whole situation about Xavi potentially getting the sack from Joan Laporta? And if Xavi he were to leave, who would you want to replace him as the Barcelona manager? Would you guys want Rafa Marquez to be the next manager, which appears to be the forefront, or would you want the new manager to be, for example, a Hansi Flick, who I have been in favor for since weeks ago, or since Xavi has announced his departure, from the club. But guys, thank you guys all for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys all in the next video.